Nearly every automaker has some type of specialized team or division that is focused on making performance cars. Some notable ones that come to mind are BMW's M, Mercedes-AMG, Subaru's STI, and Toyota's GR. And all of these different performance divisions came about in different ways. Some were independent companies that were bought up by the automaker, and others were internal startups that were meant to help the brand become more competitive in racing. And others still are just basically a branding exercise. So today we're going to talk through a bunch of these different performance divisions and talk about their history and their role in creating the sports cars that we love. And just a quick note, we've got a lot of different companies to talk through here, so I'm going to keep it pretty brief. But if there's anyone in particular that you want a deep dive on, let me know in the comments. Now, I think it's only fair that we start with BMW's M division. BMW M was founded in the 1970s, and at this point in time, BMW was facing some pretty heavy competition in various forms of racing from brands like Mercedes-Benz and Porsche. So M was created as a team whose sole focus was to help BMW become more competitive in motorsport. And this turned out to be pretty successful because in the coming decades, BMW would rake in a ton of wins in touring, endurance, and pro car racing. At its inception, the M team's focus really wasn't on producing street cars. The only production cars they were producing were to comply with homologation rules. And if you're not familiar with homologation, it's where an automaker has to build a certain number of production cars to enter that vehicle into a given racing series. But over time, these homologation models actually became pretty popular and led to some sales success. So BMW started to give more cars the M treatment. Like they came out with a larger luxury performance sedan in the form of the M5, and then eventually they would be coming out with performance SUVs with the X5M and the X3M. And there's clearly a lot of power in this branding because now BMW even sells M Sport models, which are meant to be performance cars, but they don't get the full M treatment. Now, another performance division that has its roots in racing, but took a different path to being the powerhouse it is today is Mercedes-AMG. AMG was an independent consulting firm that was founded by a couple of ex-Mercedes-Benz employees in the late 1960s. And initially, AMG's role was to build engines for Mercedes racing teams. And over the coming decades, Mercedes would see a lot of success using these AMG engines. And at the same time, there started to be AMG branded homologation cars to comply with racing regulations. And the partnership between AMG and Mercedes would continue to grow closer until in the 1990s, Mercedes purchased a majority stake in AMG. And to this day, AMG maintains its identity of being a separate high-performance division within the overall Mercedes organization. And they produce AMG models of everything from the entry-level CLA to the E-Class to the G-Wagon. Next, we're going to take a trip over to Japan and talk about the Subaru STI team. Similar to BMW M, STI was created in the late 1980s to help Subaru become more competitive in racing. But opposed to road course racing like some of these other brands, Subaru was very focused on rally. And we can really credit the creation of STI for helping Subaru become so dominant in rally racing over the coming decade, as well as helping Subaru's overall brand just become synonymous with the sport. But STI has a much more limited scope in terms of road cars than some of the other brands. Their most iconic product by far is the Impreza WRX STI. But they also came out with STI tuned versions of other cars like the BRZ, where they would make slight modifications, but it wasn't a true STI product. Now, Toyota's GR team is one of the newer performance divisions, with GR standing for Gazoo Racing, and it was created in 2015. There was a time in the 1990s where Toyota was very involved with racing and had a pretty broad offering of different performance cars, with vehicles like the MR2, the Celica, and the Supra. Sometime during the 2000s, Toyota's focus really shifted away from performance cars in motorsport, and they really began to hone in on economical mass production vehicles. But in the 2010s, there was a change in Toyota's leadership that resulted in a renewed interest in both motorsport and performance cars. And thus, GR was created, and this resulted in a renewed interest in performance cars at Toyota, And the GR team is responsible for some of Toyota's most exciting products, like the GR Corolla, the GR86, and the GR Supra. Next, Dodge's SRT team was founded in 2002. SRT stands for Street and Racing Technology. But unlike the companies that we've talked about so far, SRT's focus really wasn't on helping Dodge become more competitive in racing. Their focus was on producing high-performance street cars. SRT would come out with high-performance versions of vehicles like the Charger, the Challenger, and the Durango, as well as taking over development of the Dodge Viper. But SRT isn't just limited to the Dodge brand, it kind of trickles out to all of the other brands that are underneath the Chrysler Group umbrella, like Jeep and Ram. Next up, I think Audi Sport is probably one of the lesser known performance divisions. Full transparency, this was actually a team that I learned a lot about while researching for this video. Audi Sport, formerly known as Quattro, was created in 1983, again to help Audi become more competitive in motorsport. And their focus was really on leveraging Audi's all-wheel drive system in performance applications. And we can credit this team with developing some of Audi's most exciting models that are currently on sale today, like the RS3, the RS6, and the RSQ8. To pivot back to another American auto manufacturer, Ford's SVT team was created in the 1990s. Again, this is a performance team that is much more focused on producing high-performance street cars opposed to motorsport, but we certainly do have to give them a little credit for helping maintain Ford's name in racing. In the 2000s, SVT was absorbed into the larger Ford Performance team. These teams helped create high-performance versions of existing models like the F-150 Raptor or the Mustang GT500, but they also created standalone products like the Ford GT. But where Ford Performance might be getting the most recognition as of late is with their massive parts catalog. For example, they sell a supercharger kit for V8 powered F-150s that bumps total power up to 700 horsepower, which is absolutely ridiculous, but I'm here for it. And the last performance division that we will touch on is the Porsche GT team. And I think this is an interesting example for a few different reasons. For one, all of the brands that we've talked about up until this point are much larger than Porsche and have a much broader product offering. Porsche has always been pretty focused on the performance market, so you might be asking what the purpose is of creating a motorsports division and a company that's already really focused on racing. And the answer is just that Porsche cares a lot about winning races. Since the Porsche GT team's creation in 1972, the company has basically had unrivaled success in a bountiful number of different types of motorsport. In the current day, the GT team still has a very active role in Porsche's racing operations, but their street cars have also become Porsche's flagship models. For example, on paper, the 911 Turbo S should really be Porsche's flagship model. But if you ask a lot of enthusiasts, the car that they think best represents kind of the Porsche ethos as a whole is the GT3 and GT3 RS. So to wrap things up, I think these 8 performance divisions have been the most influential and had the biggest impact on the overall car market. And some common themes that we can see here is that when you build a team that is dedicated to motorsport, it helps you win races. And some of that technology they develop that helps build good race cars eventually trickles down to mass market production vehicles, either because of homologation compliance or just because it's good tech that helps improve on-street driving.